Hey guys, Technomentary here with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 11 Pro with the iPhone XS Max. As you can see, these phones we have in our hand, we're going to compare the software, the hardware, and the overall performance of both of these phones going into 2021 and what you can expect. Also in this video, we're going to answer the question, which device is better in terms of which one should you purchase and whether it's worth upgrading from the XS Max to the 11 Pro, and we're gonna break all of that down for you guys. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. So as you can see here, we have the iPhone XS Max in white color or silver color, whatever, depends on how you're looking at it, and we have the space gray edition of the 11 Pro here. And if you guys are looking to either upgrade or buying one of these devices at a discounted price, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. So let's talk about the physical differences on this phone. As you can see here, right off the glass on the back is that you have the matte glass versus the shinier glass. Both of them are glass back, which means they're able to charge wirelessly. Of course, the other thing you notice here on the 11 Pro is that design of Apple logo towards the middle section of the back glass versus the iPhone XS Max on the upper side of it. And then the other noticeable difference is that iPhone printed on the Max versus not being printed on the 11 Pro. So those are some of the noticeable differences. And of course, you can't miss the camera. You have the triple camera versus the dual camera. With the 11 Pro, there is that third camera for that ultra wide angles that we'll show later in the video in the camera review section for you guys. And the other thing, of course, you notice is that noticeable size difference. While we're comparing these two phones, might not be apples to apples here because the fact that the Max version, there's also a Max version of the 11 Pro, and you really want to compare those two, but we want to compare this one in case you're looking to upgrade or just want to see the size difference when they're side by side. And in terms of other things like the weight, the Max does have around 7 ounces or so versus the Pro here that we have that has around 6, so 1 ounce difference. Of course, the 11 Pro here is lighter versus the XS Max, which feels a little bit heavier. That's because of the sheer size of it. Aside that, you have that same similar build on terms of the body itself. You have that reflective rounded bezel here. The same thing with the speaker studio down here by the charge port, and then your SIM card tray. As you can see here, one thing you'll notice is that on this side, the SIM card, because of the size difference, it looks like it's a little bit lower, but they're like midsection here, and then the top part of these phones. They also have these notches between both of the phones. So those are the things you'll notice between these two devices. The other aspect we want to talk about between these two phones is the actual display size. As we mentioned, these aren't quite a head-on-head comparison because of the fact that this is in the Max version of the 11 Pro Max, which would be a better comparison with the XS Max. Nonetheless, this video, we wanted to show you guys the screen size differences between these two phones. There's some differences between the screen size of these two phones, but if we really want to go down and talk about the screen size, is that the iPhone 11 Pro has a 5.8-inch Super Retina XDR display that has the OLED technology to it, where the iPhone Max here has a 6.5, so almost a 0.7 size difference, and it also has that OLED, and it has that Super Retina HD. So XRD display and the HD display, how much difference it's gonna make, not quite sure. But we're gonna talk about the other aspect of it, which is screen resolution. Although 11 Pro came out in 2019 compared to the XS Max, which came out in 2018, the resolution sort of went down on the 11 Pro here. As you can see, the display resolution on the 11 Pro is around 2436 by 1125 compared to the Max one here we have, which is around 2688 by 1242 display. And then the other thing we want to talk about that's noticeable difference is the contrast ratio. So the 11 Pro does have 2 million to 1 ratio versus the 10s Max, which has around 1 million to 1 ratio. And then the other thing we want to talk about is the actual max brightness between this phone, because it is a noticeable difference. The 11 Pro has around 1200 nit versus the iPhone 10s Max, which has 625. What that really means is on a brighter setting, like if you're outside or somewhere where there's a lot of lighting, the 11 Pro is going to do a better job in terms of the display and showing all of that. And then the other thing we want to talk about in this video is the battery size, which is really important because both of these phones surprisingly has around the same sort of battery size. The 11 Pro has around the 3000 mAh battery, and the XS Max, because it's a bigger phone, also has a slightly bigger battery than the 11 Pro. It has around a 3200 mAh battery. But surprisingly, one thing we notice is that the battery life, when you compare video playback, the 11 Pro beats the bigger size 10s, the Max version, because the Max version has a bigger display of that OLED. It consumes up a lot more power, so that's why we see an 18-hour video playback on the 11 Pro versus only 16 hours or so. So you have that difference between the brightness and, of course, the other thing we mentioned about the battery life difference between it. So those are the numbers. Then the last aspect of hardware we're going to talk about later on, we're going to really talk about are the actual chip on these two phones. So what kind of chip are on these phones? Well, because they're only a year difference, there's only one generation of difference between the chip here. The 11 Pro here has an A13 chip compared to the Max version, which has the A12 chip. So 1 year difference in terms of generation between their chip. And what difference does it make in the software aspect of this video? We're going to break all of that down for you guys. And then the last piece about the hardware design we're going to talk about is that water splash and dust resistivity on this phone. So what can you expect from that? Well, both of the phones are actually rated to have IP68 rated. And the one thing you'll notice about water resistivity is that the 11 Pro can last up to 4 meters for 30 minutes versus the Max here that can only last 2 meters at 30 minutes per 30 minutes. And what does that really mean? Well, a couple things that means here for us is that on a regular device, if you're taking your phone for a swim, if the phone are submerged, they're going to be water resistant for some time. But the thing about any sort of resistivity is that over time with any phone, if there's any crack on the back glass or the front glass or even nick or anything that can possibly penetrate the phone, you're going to lose and compromise that water resistivity on it. So do be careful if you're looking to take it for a dive. And let's talk about the camera that we want to talk about, because we mentioned physically there's a triple versus dual camera. And what does that mean in terms of the camera? Well, let's find out by opening up the camera app on both of these phones. So one thing you'll notice when we open up the camera on these two phones is that both of them does have slightly different versions of camera, because the iPhone 11 Pro has that triple camera, that ultra wide lens. It allows you to really go both ways here. As you see here, we're able to zoom in and out both ways, where the iPhone Max is able to do 2x the zoom versus that 4x the optical zoom on it. So that's one noticeable thing. The other noticeable thing you'll notice is both of these phones are actually able to do quite a lot in terms of photography mode photos. So if you're looking for that, you'll get most out of both of these phones. And lastly, of course, for your video, both phones are able to record up to 4K. As you can see here, up to from 720 all the way up to 60 frames per second, as you see here. So you're not losing much in terms of the camera. The camera seems to be that ultra wide that only makes that difference. And let's talk about the software itself. You'll notice the bigger icons on this phone. That's because both of the phones are upgraded to iOS 14, and they're able to run optimally on iOS 14. Your social media app, your entertainment app, your gaming app, all of them work flawlessly. No issues there, no doubt, in terms of what this phone can do. If you're looking for a phone to do sort of video watching, you might prefer the bigger screen versus a smaller screen. Depends on what kind of screen size you have, and probably will matter in terms of what your hand size is. You can see I have some smaller hands here, and it's kind of harder to hold the max version. I prefer the 11 Pro because it sits really well on my hand. But if you have bigger hands, you might actually prefer getting that max version, maybe even for the 11 Pro, because of that sheer size and your hands. You might consider that. So those are some of the things we notice in terms of both of these phones. Of course, if you're multitasking, doing a lot on both of the devices, they're able to handle gaming pretty well because of those chip, that A13 and the A11 chip. And lastly, it comes to our final part of the video is, should you upgrade from iPhone XS Max to iPhone 11 Pro or even the Pro Max? Well, so a couple things you want to look at is, are you looking for a better camera? If you are looking to upgrade your camera to get the ultra wide angles, you might consider maybe the 11 Pro. Also, if you're looking for a phone that's going to get one more year out of the iOS update. Of course, both of them are upgrade to iOS 14. They're most likely going to get upgrade for at least another 4+ years or so. The Max might get 1 year less because it's 1 year older than the Pro. So that's one thing to note. But other than that, there isn't much of a difference between these phones. Of course, the display here, because the Pro isn't the max version of it and the XS is the max version of it, you have that bigger display. So surely if you're picking between these two phones, between the size, you might consider the Max because of the size. And that brings us to the last point, which is price point. So the iPhone 11 Pro, since it's just recently came out, sort of you still have that big price tag. So you're going to be paying around $700 to $800 to just get that Pro edition of it. And if you're looking to get the Pro Max, the bigger one, you're going to pay even a lot more compared to the XS Max, which you're able to get probably under $500. So you're spending maybe $300 to $400 more because of the newer phones. But there isn't much upgrade in terms of if you're looking to get a lot out of the phone. If you were to choose a budget friendly phone, you might consider the XS Max. So there you guys have it. That's our conclusion of both of these phones. Hopefully this video is helpful. If this video is helpful, please make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, we want to hear from you guys. If you guys are using either of these devices, which one are you using? What have you found using these two phones? Or if you even upgraded from one to another, what's your thought and opinion on it? We would love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you guys next time.